So, they tried to make a Nightmare on Elm Street movie without Robert Englund.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Welcome to the Dave Cave. I, as always, am Dave, and today we are going to be talking the last of the big three to get a late 2000s remake, and that is 2010's A Nightmare on Elm Street. This Nightmare on Elm Street was directed by Samuel Bayer, stars Rooney Mara as Nancy Thompson, and for the role of Freddy Krueger, you have the ever-awesome Jackie Earle Haley. And the movie follows generally the same idea of the original in that you have Freddy coming after these kids. What this one does a little bit differently is that it gives Freddy a different motive, gives the kids a different role in what happens to Freddy. Freddy still dies the same way. He still wants to kill these kids. But how that happens, why that happens, it gets a little bit crazy. There are a fair amount of people that don't like this version, do not like the remake really whatsoever. But you can't deny that there are things that this movie does actually pretty right. So let's get into the good. The first thing I want to talk about in the good column is Freddy. I like this version of Freddy. I understand that it's not Robert Englund. It's not supposed to be Robert Englund. This is Jackie Earle Haley's Freddy Krueger. And I think for that, him coming in and taking his turn on the role, I like it. I like the way he plays it. I like the way he does his own voice, that it's not altered at all. That's just Jackie doing his voice. In the originals, Robert Englund's voice that plays out, but then they had to edit it. I appreciate that. And also the little twitches he does, the way he looks. If it's not CG'd, the CG parts, I'm not a big fan of the look of Freddy. But I like the makeup. I like the idea of a more realistic burn victim. It goes along with, really, this movie has more of a normal, grounded tone to it, even though it's, people getting killed in their dreams. It's got more of a grounded tone, even in the kills. The kills are a little bit more grounded. They're not really fantastic, so to speak. So I like that really translates into Freddy too. His glove looks good. I think his makeup looks good. Overall, solid Freddy, and he's fucked up. He really is. He's got that dark humor that I like so much about Freddy. He's twisted. Like, he's not out having fun at all. He's pissed. This is a revenge plot. He wants to straight up murder these kids and fuck with them doing it. I like that kind of Freddy. The next thing I want to talk about that I like piggybacks on Freddy in that I like his methods in this movie. I like the way he messes with the kids and that he's building up this idea that they don't want to fall asleep so that these micro naps happen and that eventually they don't wake up. I'm not going to get into the science of it. I don't understand if it actually is a real thing. I don't think it is because there's all kinds of sleep stuff that has happened. But because they introduce it and they lean on it, I appreciate the idea. I like that he's building them up, not necessarily just to kill them. He wants to torture them and torture them and torture them. You get that a little bit in the Jesse kill, and then you get that full-blown when he says, yeah, you're going to fall asleep, and then I have you forever. I like that because what you then get is you get all these desperate moments. You get Nancy using the lighter on her arm. You get, the adrenaline shot. You get him, taking sleeping pills with Red Bull. You get them really, 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 really trying to stay awake. I like that. It's more of that desperation shit that I like so much. And then the last thing I want to talk about further piggybacks on that, in that I really like the dream sequences in this movie. None of them are really crazy. None of them are super fantastic. I like that they're kind of grounded. It's a different kind of feel, really, especially if you've watched all these ones like I have, where they get crazier and crazier and crazier. I know the first one has a little bit more grounded dreams, just like this one does, but it's nice to get back to that. And I always kind of liked the more kind of grimy, you still get the whole boiler room vibe and you get people hanging in Jesse's, nightmare. But I like the idea that it's not crazy. It's not In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. It's not, people changing their appearance. It's more of a grounded type shit that you could really feel a type of fear in. You can see yourself in that kind of dream and draw fear out of that. I like the dream sequences in this movie. We're going to get into that a little bit more later when we start talking about the kills, but just know it's one of my favorite parts of the movie. And now that I've built this movie up, it is time to tear the remake down and get into the bad. The first thing I don't like about this movie is the use of CG. Really, for me, there's only one moment that it really, really works, and that's Chris's schoolroom nightmare. I like that. When she's like, wake up, wake up, wake up, and they all turn to ash and Freddy's there. I like that scene. It's a very cool visual. I dig it a lot. But then you get a lot of other times where it just doesn't land. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of the little bit of CGI used on his face that could have been practical. I don't like at all when they try to expand on the whole idea of Freddy pushing through the wall as Nancy's kind of falling asleep. I don't like that. They did it well in the original. They should have left it alone because it looks so toony in this. There's so many instances where the CG really could have done better being practical. And the CG in this one, it's not that it looks bad, but it looks a little too toony in comparison to all the other realistic looking stuff in this movie. The next thing I don't like in this movie is some of the casting choices. And that's not all of them. Like I said, it's some of the casting choices. I like Jackie Earle Haley as Freddy. I like Katie Cassidy as Chris. And I like Kyle Garner as Quentin. I dig them. They all fit. And really, Katie Cassidy should have been Nancy. But that is what it is. What I don't like is Rooney Mara as Nancy. I'm not a big fan of her. I don't feel anything for that character, the way she plays it, how she's kind of mopey. I understand that maybe that's the Nancy they wanted it to be, and that's maybe just a poor choice in terms of character development, but I didn't really care about Nancy. My real big problem in this movie that took me out of it completely, and I didn't buy any of the scenes he was in, was Thomas Dekker as Jesse. I don't buy him as this tough guy, badass asshole. I really don't. Maybe it's because I've seen him in too many things where he's a nice guy, but I didn't buy it. I didn't buy it at all that he's supposed to be this tough guy and that he's, going to talk shit to Nancy at a funeral and, oh yeah, he's so, that he's the Rod character. He doesn't do that. He doesn't fit in that role at all. Sorry, he doesn't. Now, I know that that's not a lot really to flesh out a bad column, but with that CG and that bad casting, that's enough to hold this movie back for me from really being what it could have been. This movie could have been a hell of a lot more, especially with some of the other casting. So with that, let's get into the blood, the guts, the micronaps, the ugly. The first thing I want to talk about in terms of the kills and the dreams and all that is that this movie officially marks Aaron Yu as the only person to ever be killed by Freddy and Jason. I've always loved that fact since both of these movies came out. And yes, it is in the remakes, but you know what? That still fucking counts because Freddy kills him, Jason kills him. It's awesome. He's the only person with that distinction. In terms of everyone else's kills, though, as I said, I like the dreams in this movie. And in that, we get some pretty brutal kills. And even when they're still fantastical, if that's a word, the Jesse kill, it's brutal. He punches through his chest. The Chris kill, it's a callback to the Tina kill, obviously. But it's still brutal, but feels grounded in its brutality, even though she's floating across the room and smashing and shit. It's a very cool kill. Both of those are great kills, but they aren't my favorite. My award for favorite kill of the movie goes to Dean. This movie starts on all cylinders. I love the intro of this movie, the visuals of it, the interplay that this is someone that is already struggling with Freddy, that he is the latest victim and really the first victim that this original group of kids is having to deal with. I love it. And then you get the sweet visuals, Dean walking around, you know shit is sideways, you get little hints of Freddy, you get little glimpses of what he's going to look like, and then to cap off the kill, you have Dean standing there with a knife to his throat, stopping himself from doing it. That's terrifying enough. But then you have these other people having to watch him, and Chris trying to wake him up, like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? And then he jams it in his throat and slices it across. The camera doesn't cut from that at all, and we just see it. Boom, titles. It's an awesome kill. Across the franchise, it's an awesome kill. Unfortunately, it sets the movie up for a very high bar that it doesn't touch for the rest of the film, but it is a very, very awesome kill, especially killing Kellen Lutz. He was pretty damn popular at this point. Now it is time for my final thoughts for the 2010 remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street. I know not a lot of people like this movie, and that's fine. I don't mind it so much. I like the idea that they took the original and they put spins on things. They put a little bit of spin on Freddy, they put a little bit of spin on his motives, a little bit of spin on the characters, and the way that all plays out. I'm fine with that. And actually, the whole kind of child molester angle, I got that vibe from the original Freddy. Like, he's a guy who likes to toy, so I never thought that he just took kids into a lair and killed them, so that felt like a normal progression for me. They could have taken out the mystery, and that's fine, that is what it is, but had they taken out the mystery and full on, yeah, no, he's a full-on pedophile, and he's a piece of shit, and he has what's coming to him, and that finally comes to a head when the whole movie you have this revenge plot of Freddy going after these kids for what they did to him, and then when they have the epiphany of what the fuck he did to them, it becomes a revenge plot against Freddy. I like that, and then he gets his what up. I wish they actually would have let him be dead at the end of this and maybe tried to bullshit their way if a sequel did come, but we got a pretty weak stinger at the end. But I like that. I like the way the events turned out, and that it was about Freddy and the kids, and that relationship meant so much more in this movie for me than it does in the 84 original. This movie is definitely one that I've popped in many times, and I will in the future, and in no way, shape, or form for me is this at the bottom of the barrel. It might actually even break my upper half of the ranking, believe it or not. And that officially marks the end of my reviews for the entire Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. That leaves just one more stop before we get to Halloween, and that is Freddy vs. Jason. That review for that is going to be coming out on Sunday, so be on the lookout for that. And while you're waiting for Freddy vs. Jason, if you haven't already, go watch all my Nightmare on Elm Street reviews, and before that, I did the entire Friday the 13th franchise. I'll have links to both of those, well, the first for both of those, the original Friday the 13th and the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Links to both of those will be in the description below. Go check those out, and while you're down there, I have links to my Instagram and Twitter. They're both at @TheDaveCave_. I post over there when I am not posting here, and that is going to do it for me today and the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Thank you so much, as always, for stopping by the Dave Cave. I will see you on Sunday for Freddy vs. Jason, but until then, take care.